In case you're unfamiliar with Jim Carroll, Jim has worked with a number of small boutique firms and companies that you may not have heard of. They include NASA on the future of space travel, the PGA on accelerating innovation in golf, and Disney, where he looked at innovation and creativity in a world of upside-down trends. So will you please welcome Jim Carroll.
Hey,
welcome, Jim.
Good afternoon. If any of you are music fans, there's also a writer for the Irish Times for a while named Jim Carroll. He and I have actually had a lot of conversations over the years. I'm not the music guy, I'm the futurist guy, and it's a thrill to be here in Ireland. Artificial intelligence, is it real? Is it an existential threat? What the heck is really going on here? That's my job here with you today, to really put in perspective what is happening and how things are unfolding here. The fascinating thing, and if we can, on the floor monitors, if we can bring up my deck, you've got the different Tour de France thing happening up here. I have probably flown over Ireland 100 times, speeches in the UK, speeches throughout Europe, speeches throughout North America, speeches throughout the Middle East. I've probably flown over the country 100 times, actually never managed to get here. And in January, Icon PLC, one of your clients, brought me over for a talk about the impact of artificial intelligence in the world of clinical pharmaceutical trials. We actually have the relatives on my mom's side traced back to 1749 to a little town called Kilmacthomas, County Waterford, and we're in touch with the relatives down there, and we actually went down to see them in January. So look, it is an absolute thrill to be here with you in Dublin today. My impression of Dublin so far, beautiful city, beautiful country with traffic. That's about it. I'm going to bring you into my world. My world is one of speed. My world is one of velocity, very fast-paced change. I'm going to share with you 3 statistics which put into perspective the reality of what is occurring today. 65%. I was preparing for an education conference in Australia a number of years ago, and I came across this study which suggested that 65% of kids who are in preschool today will work in a job or career that does not yet exist. I want you to think about that. And I began using this statistic a number of years ago. My 30-year-old son today, he's a drone pilot. He works for a commercial real estate firm, and he puts his $100,000 drone into the sky with a $20,000 infrared camera and can do a virtual heat loss analysis of a building, feed it into a digital twin software platform, and give them a 3D cam image of their facility just like that. He's working in a job or career that didn't exist the time I first started using this statistic. Second observation. It's said if you're taking any type of degree today based on science, so agriculture, architecture, engineering, healthcare, anything having to do with science, half of the knowledge that we get in our very first year, half of that knowledge is obsolete or revised by the time we graduate. 3 years later, we're in the era of instant knowledge obsolescence, and we're in the era of instant obsolescence. I own a Tesla. It's not a car. It's like an iPad on wheels with a big battery. If you look at a 2018 automotive vehicle, don't you think the dashboard seems a little something like it's from the olden days? Because technology has taken over the automotive industry. Silicon Valley now determines their future. And things are becoming from the olden days literally before our very eyes. So that's why my favorite phrase has long been, in all the change that is underway, what we've done in the past doesn't matter. Our legacy doesn't matter, it's what we do in the next few moments. The future belongs to those who are fast. And that's the context in which I want to talk about artificial intelligence today. Because here's the reality of what is occurring. I was out in Banff, Alberta last week with the Canadian Petrochemical Summit, a whole bunch of chemical organizations, and I was talking, the reality of your industry is we are in a situation in which companies that do not yet exist will build products not yet conceived, with ideas not yet imagined, with the materials not yet in existence, with methodologies yet to be defined. That's where your opportunity in the future is to be found, because we are on the precipice of an era of explosive growth, of new companies, new opportunities, new strategies, new forms of business, new forms of disruption. And what I've realized about the future is, there's 3 types of people when it comes to tomorrow. There's those that watch the future happen. There's those who make the future happen. And then there's the surfboard dudes after it's happened. Whoa, where'd that come? I didn't see that coming. You want to be the second type of person. You want to be the individual who understands the trends which are defining this future and turn those into opportunity. And we have to appreciate in every single organization, we've got a range of skills, of insight, of capabilities. When I was in Icon PLC back in January, I put in perspective for them, look, when it comes to the folks in the room, we've got folks, when it comes to artificial intelligence, with little understanding of what is happening. Some with experimentation and understanding. They're using Copilot, they're using ChatGPT, they're working to discover what is going on. And then we've got folks with extremely advanced expertise and skills throughout Icon. The first group of people, they might be, freaking out, man's, doomed by the machine age. Robots are going to take all our job and it's all over and there's no future. The media hype and hysteria has them terrified. And at the other end of the extreme, we've got data scientists throughout the Icon PLC organization who are already doing advanced clinical trials with advanced artificial intelligence technologies. You can take any one of your clients throughout KPMG Ireland, and in those organizations, you're going to have people with that broad range of expertise. So what do we need to appreciate about AI? Well, number one, we really need to appreciate that there's really nothing new going on here other than the acceleration of what we call large language models. AI is already here. It already surrounds us. I've had a fascinating career over my 33 years as a speaker, as a futurist. And Monday morning, I got a phone call. It's a potential client on the line. It's NASA. And they said, Jim, we found you on the internet. We've watched your YouTube videos. We've read your material about innovation and creativity and trends. And look, we're having a leadership meeting. We're bringing in our top leadership team. We need a good opening kickoff. We would like you to come in and talk to us about the future of space. Now look, I can go and talk to a group of farmers about the future of agriculture, the future of healthcare, future of automotive, but the future of space, this is a bit of a stretch, particularly when you consider my career background. When you consider what brought me here today. I am a Canadian chartered accountant. From 1979 to 1989, I was with a predecessor firm of KPMG. At that point in time, we were known as KMG. And I did audit and business advisory and taxation and all the critical things that we do in this organization today. And I remember back in 1981, look, this is in the primitive years. This is in the era in which we were using paper. And our audit papers, we had a series of tick marks. We had to indicate, did we reconcile this balance? Did we do this thing? And I came up with this elaborate series of stickmen. And I would have, one, working that way, indicating that, and that indicating that. And I was told that I wasn't allowed to use stickmen in my audit working papers. I was determined that the organization was out to crush my creativity. And somehow through that process, I got very involved in technology, wrote a little book in 1993 in Canada called The Canadian Internet Handbook, went on to write 34 books about the internet, sold 1 million books, and got onto the speaking circuit describing tomorrow to organizations to such a degree that I have the same agents as Barack and Michelle Obama and George Bush, and I'm here with you in Dublin today to put in perspective artificial intelligence. There is a critical point here. I would not be able to do anything I am doing, such as getting up in front of Icon PLC and talking to them about the strategic opportunity of artificial intelligence, if I didn't have that chartered accountancy background. I think what we have is we have the ability to walk into complex situations and assess it and understand it and work within it extremely quickly. And this is what brought me into NASA, where I've got a room full of astronauts, rocket engineers, people who are studying the origins of the universe. And I'm there to describe to them the future of the space industry. And you have to understand back then, there were only 3 organizations involved in the space industry, the Chinese, the Russians, and the Americans. They could not conceive of a world of commercialized space industry with hundreds of companies involved. So look, I'm putting together my PowerPoint deck and I'm thinking, where am I going to start with these folks? This is a really tough audience. And I started thinking to myself, the future, space, Spock. I'm going to start with Spock. I'm going to talk about Star Trek. Why not? Well, what is Spock holding in his hands here? A medical tricorder. Fantastic little concept from the 23rd century, a little device that he could hold next to the head of a human or an alien and get an instant readout of their physiological health. Well, we live in the world of the X Prize Foundation. We live in the world of the Grand Challenge initiatives. And Qualcomm, which is a manufacturer of computer chips, actually put together a $10 million prize years ago to challenge the global scientific community. Look, if you can develop a medical tricorder, if you can develop a little device that somebody can hold next to their head, and if it can do 13 physiological measurements, we will award you $10 million. Well, the senior leadership team at NASA was not aware that out at NASA's Ames Research Laboratory in California, a group of 45 NASA scientists got together to develop the Xanadu Scout, the medical tricorder of the 23rd century, which I hold in my hands here right now. I can put this little device to my head. It will take my pulse. It will take my blood pressure. It will do an EKG of my heart. It will take my oxygen level. They didn't actually win. Another organization won. But the point is, this wasn't supposed to be here until the 23rd century. We now live in an era in which crazy science fiction-like ideas are becoming real in front of our very eyes. And this actually has a lot of embedded AI in it. Look, we're already surrounded by AI. When we're using our Fitbits, when we're using exercise tracking, when we're using Amazon with shopping site recommendations, when we're using Spotify, the algorithm already surrounds us. It's been with us for quite some time. But why now? What happened? What happened in October 2022 when ChatGPT was thrown upon the world? And we went, whoa, look at this. I can talk to this machine and it gives credible answers back. Well, several things came together all at once. The continuation of what we call Moore's Law. And Moore's Law is the law that the processing power of a computer chip doubles every 18 months and the cost cuts in half. This has continued since the invention of the original computer transistor. But the second thing that happened, because of the acceleration of cloud and the acceleration of technology, the acceleration of speed, the cost to undertake the training, the cost to prepare an AI model such as ChatGPT has collapsed in the last number of years. At the same time that the available volume of information available to the model for training has exploded. You know, look, before COVID, I would get in healthcare conferences and talk about the fact in the world of healthcare information, the volume of medical information was doubling every 78 days. They now estimate the volume of medical knowledge is now doubling every 8 days. We've got so much information being generated, and we're feeding that into the machine. This has happened at the same time that the number of artificial intelligence research papers literally exploded. And they all fed upon themselves. They're all sharing this insight. They're all sharing the latest advancements. They're all sharing the latest science, accelerating the technology of artificial intelligence to a greater degree. And a lot of this is happening in the big, open, global, collaborative community, where researchers, where scientists, where developers are doing a lot of co-creation in this global collaborative economy, and the emergence of a lot of unique building blocks. You know, look, you can go on to Amazon and you can find, software that will let you do artificial intelligence-based image search, on an application that you're developing simply with a little bit of point and clicking. 10 years ago, that would have been a multi-million-dollar process. So we brought together all these trends all at once, and ChatGPT exploded into our public consciousness. And look how quickly we adopted it. It took us 3.5 years for Netflix to get to 1 million users. It took 5 days for the same thing to happen with ChatGPT. We are living in extraordinary times. The key thing is this, though. It's not the trends that have happened so far. It's how these trends continue into the future. You don't need to know how AI works to understand its opportunities. You need to understand the velocity behind it. This little research paper puts in perspective what is happening. When the very first large language model was developed, it used what we call 60,000 parameters of information. When they brought out GBT, the original GBT, it had 110 million parameters. And then they brought out GBT2 a number of years ago. It had 1.75 billion. GBT3 was already from the olden days because we're up to GBT4, had 175 billion. They are now talking models which will have 10 trillion parameters. I seem to remember from my accountancy days that there's a big difference between 60,000 and 10 trillion. We are living in an era of exponential trends. And so if we thought AI was fast so far, we haven't seen anything yet. That's why we get folks, such as Bill Gates making the observation the development of AI is as fundamental as the invention of the microprocessor, the personal computer, the internet. This is profound and has profound implications. The flip side of the coin, we really don't know where this is taking us. AI is about to change the world, yet nobody's really quite sure how. And so it's my job here today to try to demystify that. Why? Because Seamus talked about opportunity. Seamus talked about the fact that what is happening within your client base is an understanding that this can be a powerful tool to help them advance their business strategy. And KPMG can play a key role in helping to advance that strategy through careful investment in what we need to do to develop the skills, the insight, the capability to accomplish that goal. And in that context, you need to appreciate AI is not just Copilot. AI is not just ChatGPT. AI is not just using Midjourney to draw some pictures. AI is many different things. And many of these things have been around us for quite some time. Algorithms, autonomous driving, a whole machine vision, machine learning, a whole bunch of technologies. You don't need to know how it works. You need to understand its implications. AI algorithms, Spotify, Amazon, Fitbits, Apple Health, predictive insurance, where I get into a cooperative agreement with Tesla and Tesla is tracking all my driving behavior and Tesla gets into the insurance business and they will underwrite my insurance for my vehicle if I'm showing good driving behavior using an artificial intelligence algorithm. Algorithms already surround us. Autonomous vehicles, self-driving vehicle technology, using a lot of sophisticated neural network technology to interpret the world around it. And I tell you, as somebody who's very involved in the future, I still find it a completely freaky thing to get in my car and to tell it to drive me from my home to the golf course, and it literally does it by itself. And I'm asking myself, at what point, can I learn to trust the algorithm? Computer vision is a component of artificial intelligence. In the world of healthcare, it's had a profound impact where, a radiology exam, an AI machine vision system can better detect particular cancers with greater degree of accuracy than any human can. The implications of machine vision are absolutely profound. In machine learning. Watch this little site. This is a site called PIM Eyes. This is used by police forces around the world. And what we're doing here is we're uploading an image of me into PIM Eyes. And it's using machine vision, machine learning to identify all the pictures of me found throughout the internet. And I've gone through this and I've looked at it, and it has stunning accuracy as it does this. Well, this has all kinds of implications, both good and bad, optimistic and scary. And this type of technology has been around us for quite some time. Natural language processing. We are seeing the emergence of all kinds of real-time language translation tools based upon natural language processing, virtual assistants. If you were watching the Apple WWDC announcements last week, you would have seen that they are integrating a lot of artificial intelligence capabilities into Siri, into Calendar, into all the tools that come to you with the Apple ecosystem. AI is many things, and a lot of this stuff has already been around us. Private enterprise large language models. KPMG is putting in place the tools to build you the capability to query internal documents, to accelerate your knowledge capabilities, to accelerate your ability to grab new knowledge at the right time for the right purpose. You take someone like SAP. SAP is working very hard, very fast, like every other enterprise resource planning software company, to put in place large language model processing within the ERP. This is a video from SAP, which shows how they have integrated a large language model like ChatGPT into the ERP to roll out a storefront application that's talking to the corporate backend database and doing this with a series of clicks. What you are going to find happening in the ERP space in the next several months and years is going to be simply staggering. And organizations are going to need a lot of help and assistance and guidance in putting in place these sophisticated tools. So when I talk about AI, I like to break it into two components: large language model technology and all the other stuff. the mega trends, the big trends which are taking us into a complicated future. Let's talk about the first part, the large language models. What we're doing with Copilot, what we're doing when we're playing with ChatGPT and things like that. To me, this is a knowledge journey. This is a journey about how do we enhance our knowledge, our capabilities, our skills, utilizing these magical new tools. And look, to a degree right now, AI and the way we're using it, it's a little bit like a cool party trick. I mean, here's me back in my James Dean age, where I took a picture of my face and I put it into Midjourney, draw me a picture of a 1950s greaser, and then draw a picture of me in my hippie years. And after that, I became a punk rocker, hanging down in the downtown area, and after that, full-on cyborg. I mean, we can do cool party trick things like this. No practical business value whatsoever, unless we're in the design and creative space. But here's what's really happening. I wrote this trend series back in 23 trends for 2023. We like, sort of number alliteration stuff. And trend number 8 was about knowledge velocity. And trend number 8 was all about, that fact that the volume of medical knowledge is now doubling every 8 years. In your field of endeavor, whether it has to do with tax law, whether it has to do with audit requirements, whether it has to do with artificial intelligence or whatever consulting services we might be providing, the fact is you are drowning in new information. And in my view, this is a tool to help us deal with that reality. Because the knowledge curve that we live in today is extreme. Buckminster Fuller, a scientist from years ago, said, back in 1900, the volume of medical knowledge was probably doubling every 100 years. But by the end of 1945, it was coming down to 25 years. Every 25 years, the volume of global knowledge having to do with everything was doubling every 25 years. By 1982, every 13 months. People now figure that global knowledge, the whole of human knowledge, is now doubling every 8 days. How do you possibly keep up? And I think what is unfolding here is the emergence of a very sophisticated tool to help us accomplish this. So you are building a law practice, you are building a legal practice. And I was in with one legal firm, and I was putting in perspective this knowledge issue by outlining 40 practice areas that did not exist in the world of the law 15 years ago. And each of these involves the formulation of new knowledge, the discovery of new knowledge, a requirement to enhance our knowledge. That's the world you're in. And I think the opportunity here when you're using Copilot is not how can I use it to ask these cool questions? How can I use this to enhance my personal knowledge capabilities? And with that, I'll give you a picture of a strawberry. The strawberry is diseased. Last November, I was over in Hawaii with the Western Growers Association, the agricultural organizations from Salinas Valley, California, Arizona, Nevada, some of the largest agricultural producers in the world. And I put up this picture of a strawberry. And I said, if you think about the world of agriculture, what is happening here? We are seeing the rapid obsolescence of existing knowledge because it's constantly being replaced by new knowledge. We're seeing the disappearance of existing careers with the rapid emergence of new careers. Throughout the agricultural sector, drone pilots are a skill in demand because they can do a virtual flyover in an agricultural field and identify disease, irrigation problems, plant stress, moisture issues. We're seeing the rapid emergence of new careers. We're seeing the rapid specialization in every single industry. And so organizations increasingly are having to form partnerships to get the right knowledge at the right time for the right purpose, which I call just-in-time knowledge. That's the world that we find ourselves in today. And this is the potential of AI for you. You need to think from this moment in time forward that you are now in a situation in which you have to develop the ability to get the right knowledge at the right time for the right purpose. And AI is the tool that can help you accomplish that. Back to the strawberry. We can take a picture of this diseased strawberry with our phone and using ChatGPT or other tools. Ask it to identify the disease in the strawberry, and using simple vision analysis and referencing the large language model, it will come back with an answer which we can view with potential skepticism because we know the AI has potential issues. But all of a sudden, we've got this magical tool in our pocket, and we can take a picture of something, and it gives us information. PDF queries. I've gotten myself into a situation where I will find some large PDF. I don't have time to read it. I'm doing a lot of research for all my clients to bring myself up to date on the issues and trends that will define their future. And so I feed the PDF to the machine, to query it, to have it summarize for me the information that I need to know to clarify what is going on. Think about this in the context of tax changes. Those of you who specialize in taxation issues, and there's so many taxation, initiatives which are emerging all the time. My wife, she's also a chartered accountant, ex of Deloitte. She was the manager of taxation for Unilever for quite some time. And the role of a tax professional is to keep up to date on the law. Well, there's magical tools which have emerged that take this 1-hour video which somebody has put out about the implications of tax changes and summarize it for me. And it will do that in 30 seconds or less. Think about the power which is coming into our hands, where we can get the right knowledge at the right time, for the right purpose, for the right situation, because we're mastering the skill of just-in-time knowledge. These tools have a remarkable ability to write code, to generate computer code. And you know what? There's actually places emerging on the internet where you can go and you can buy a prompt. You can pay someone $10 or $15 to buy a prompt which you feed to the machine. So this is one I used. Hi, ChatGPT. I would like you to prepare me a comprehensive course syllabus for a new subject. And I would like it broken down into 13 core curriculum items. And I would like you to provide details on each and every single one. And it did that. We are living on the edge of the era of magic. I was speaking at a insurance industry conference a number of weeks ago, and I use a very powerful tool called Dow Jones Factiva, which lets me access the entirety of millions of articles from newspapers, magazines, research publications. And I pulled down 1,745 pages of articles about the impact of artificial intelligence on the insurance industry. In the olden days, i.e. 6 months ago, I would sit down and a high-speed scan through all of those articles. Now I feed it to an AI model called popai.pro, and I simply ask it the question, and it goes through those 1,700 pages and comes back to me with the precise information that I need to understand. Your Copilot journey, your internal large language model tool journey is all about just-in-time knowledge. And you need to put that in your brain as the fundamental voyage that we were on. Because the organization is making significant investments to help to take you there. This will be a differentiating factor going forward into the future. Your ability to utilize the tools to master your understanding in a world of explosive knowledge growth will define success. You can't be in a mindset that is out there in the media that we're all going to lose our jobs to an AI. Right? You read that stuff. The CEO of IBM came out and he said, we figure we're going to be able to replace 40% of our workforce because AI is going to do all the work. It's like the most boneheaded thing I've ever heard. And these stories have been with us since the beginning of time. I have articles from the 1930s in Popular Mechanics magazine which suggest that giant robot brains are going to take all of our jobs. But this is how you need to think about it. You're probably not going to lose your job to an AI, but the belief is if you don't manage to learn how to effectively utilize this as a knowledge acceleration tool, those who have will be better positioned in the future. This is going to define our career success, and you need to approach it in that way. Let's take about the other part of this voyage. Where is this going to take your client organizations? What are the implications of the AI megatrends? Well, I spend a lot of time writing and thinking and talking about these trends in virtually every single industry, and I call it part of our big future. Every single industry today is in the midst of an absolutely massive transformation. And the spending on AI is going to be unbelievable. It is predicted in the world of healthcare, spending globally on artificial intelligence is going to go from $10 billion in 2022 to $177.4 billion by 2030. This is explosive growth. And where this is taking us is into a world, if you think about the fundamental change occurring in the world of healthcare, right now we fix you after you're sick. But the impact of AI and the impact of genomic medicine, the impact of preventative medicine, the impact of machine learning, machine vision, we are able to predict with a higher degree of accuracy what you are likely to become sick with and determine a path of healthcare based upon that knowledge. And so the reality of where we are going is there's profound opportunities in medical image analysis, drug discovery, clinical trial design, medical devices in which we embed artificial intelligence capabilities into the medical tricorders that we are carrying around with us. When I was in with Icon PLC, we were talking about the real impact that AI would have upon their business. And they are profound and they are significant. Where we could identify candidate molecules for particular pharmaceuticals faster. We can do earlier disease diagnosis because AI has that interpretive ability. We can predict patient response to treatments. And for Icon PLC, this is solving a massive problem. It is estimated that today 80% of clinical pharmaceutical trials fail because they don't meet their enrollment deadlines. 55% of clinical trials are terminated early because they don't get enough patients in them. 84% failure rate of clinical trials. And yet what has already been shown with the implementation of AI in clinical pharmaceutical trials, Johnson & Johnson, a 20% reduction in the cost of doing the trial, 80% accuracy in predicting the outcomes of particular candidate molecules. For Icon PLC, these are significant, profound numbers, which takes them into a voyage in which they are determining it's better to disrupt than to be disrupted, because if they don't master these tools, somebody else will. And there are those who are already doing that. This little company, a liver health solution company, announcing its new artificial intelligence capability to manage the clinical pharmaceutical trial process. Every single one of your clients in every single industry is now faced with the fundamental strategic issues of how do we align to these trends to take us forward into this more complex future. Think about the world of agriculture. It is estimated spending on artificial intelligence is going to go from 2.1 billion to 75 billion in the next 8 years. And what is the trend occurring in the world of agriculture? Fundamentally, it is this. Right now, we only farm when the sun is up. We're restricted to farming 8 or 10 hours a day, but the arrival of autonomous tractors, self-driving tractors, the kid managing the virtualized farm through virtualized farming software takes us to a world where we can farm 24 hours a day. And AI playing a very sophisticated and accelerated role in what we call precision agriculture. Weed zapping robots. They're actually a thing. I've gone out to a tremendous number of agricultural conferences. We're talking about a weed zapping robot, which is using machine vision driven by an algorithm to identify the weed and zapping it with a laser. This sounds like crazy science fiction stuff. It is becoming as common as nails. The world of manufacturing spending is going from 6.2 billion to 178 billion. And it's related to trends of what we call 3D printing, additive manufacturing, small print runs, mass customization instead of mass production. The entire world of manufacturing is going upside down. And the role of AI in this is profound. Robots. You know, there's not a lot to talk about the role of robots and their use of AI, but this is one of the most significant aspects of the trends which are unfolding. Quality control. We can put machine vision applications onto an assembly line and identify quality problems that are occurring in production with a greater degree of accuracy. Predictive maintenance. The world of energy. You're sort of getting the story here. I mean, look at these numbers. These are staggering numbers, going from 4 billion to 19 billion. You know what's happening in the world of energy? The big long-term substantive trend right now is we have centralized energy storage production facilities which use nuclear or coal or natural gas or hydro to generate energy, feeding it out to millions of homes. But we're all getting some wind, we're getting some solar, we're getting some tidal power. And what we are doing is building little millions of interconnected energy microgrids. You got a little bit of energy, you got a little bit of energy, let's share our energy, create our own little microgrid. So the entire essence of what the global energy industry is changing. And AI is playing a profound role in all of this. Insurance. Financial services, going from $2.3 billion to $68 billion. Insurance, we used to underwrite your insurance risk by looking back in time. They do a urine analysis test on me, they do a blood test on me, they determine, are they going to underwrite my life insurance based on that? No, we are now going to underwrite it on the basis that Jim Carroll has a medical tricorder, and we know that up in the stage there, his pulse is probably running 145, but his blood pressure is 120/80, which is probably pretty good. We will underwrite his life policy based upon real-time predictive analysis. This is a fundamental upside-down change. The entire essence of what the insurance industry is. Who's going to guide these companies into this complicated future? Construction. You know, I could go on. The changes are profound, and the changes are significant, and the opportunity is massive. And all this is happening where, with the AI megatrends, we're about to see the arrival of the smart machine. And now that we truly appreciate what is about to happen here, I'm going to share a little clip with you. This is from the Nvidia developer conference, which was held in San Jose, California, in a hockey arena with 20,000 developers a couple of months ago. Who invested in Nvidia back when they were like almost a penny stock? Watch this clip and watch what the CEO is about to say.
The future of heavy industries starts as a digital twin. The AI agents helping robots, workers, and infrastructure navigate unpredictable events in complex industrial spaces will be built and evaluated first in sophisticated digital twins.
Okay, I want you to think about what it said there. So what we were doing, I was with BNSF Railway, a Warren Buffett company in Fort Worth, Texas, a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about the future of the logistics, warehousing, retail, supply chain industry. And what is happening here is we can use things called digital twin technology, virtualization software, to create a virtualized replica of a facility that we might put in place. But what we are going to do with that physical facility is we're going to put in a lot of robotic technology, a lot of existing robotic technology, and we're going to put in place a lot of these humanoid robots, which are soon to become a part of our world. And I want you to watch this clip where the CEO states where he is taking Nvidia.
We need a simulation engine that represents the world digitally for the robot, so that the robot has a gym to go learn how to be a robot.
I watched that and blew my mind. We need to build a gym to teach the robot how to be a robot. What the heck does he mean? What the heck is he talking about? Well, this is where we get into weird science fiction-like ideas that come with artificial intelligence. Watch this clip and carefully watch at the end where it really becomes clear on what they are building us for our future.
This is Nvidia Project Groot. A general-purpose foundation model for humanoid robot learning. The Groot model takes multimodal instructions and past interactions as input and produces the next action for the robot to execute. We developed Isaac Lab, a robot learning application to train Groot on Omniverse Isaac Sim. And we scale out with Osmo, a new compute orchestration service that coordinates workflows across DGX systems for training and OVX systems for simulation. The Groot model will enable a robot to learn from a handful of human demonstrations, so it can help with everyday tasks and emulate human movement just by observing us.
Did you see what was happening there with the robot and the drummer? We are usually using machine vision to watch the human doing the drumming, and we are feeding that as an algorithmic process to the robot so it can do a 100% accurate replication of that drumming process. And when I'm talking to BNSF Railways about the future of supply chain, warehousing, logistics, and retail, we are building a gymnasium for robots to teach those robots how to interact and work alongside humans in a retail, warehousing, logistics space. This isn't science fiction. This is going to come at us like a freight train. in the next year or two. And the opportunities emerging here, they are profound. The implications are profound. The challenge with all this stuff is timing, as with any trend, is a big issue. We have something we call the Gartner hype cycle. You might be familiar with this. Every technology which comes at us, we have the trigger, we hit the peak of inflated expectations, everybody gets really excited about it, and we realize it's going to take a lot of work to make it real, and we hit the trough of disillusionment. And eventually, we hit the plateau of productivity. One of the books I wrote in 1999 was called Selling Online: How to Become a Successful E-commerce Merchant. It was about selling things over the internet. And all my friends said, what an idiot. Why would you write a book about selling things on the internet? Because people are never going to buy things online. Remember the pandemic? And if a retailer didn't have an e-commerce strategy, they weren't in business. The problem with AI right now is we are a little bit at the peak of inflated expectations. I was talking with SAP, and they did a survey of several hundred Fortune 500 companies. And what they found was that very few of them actually had identified a practical use case left yet, because they were still determining and trying to understand the strategic opportunity behind this. Isn't that your role, to help them discover that? Isn't that part of the opportunity that is unfolding here? Isn't part of your job being the mind-bending, mind-opening consultant, providing them the strategic pathway forward? And the thing about AI is a lot of AI trends are at different parts of the Gartner hype cycle. Machine vision, machine learning, very mature, very real, particularly in such industries as healthcare. So appreciating and understanding the timing issues are huge, as is understanding the ethical issues. We all know there are potential problems here. Big fan of the Jetsons. Everybody remember the Jetsons? The little robot Rosie? Rosie was an artificially intelligence managed robotic device. And in one of the episodes, it actually sort of predicted our future potential of ethical challenges with artificial intelligence. She had a little robot helper dude, and when the humans weren't looking, the robot helper dude would sweep the dirt under the rug, already displaying errors in bias and judgment and ethical behavior. I spoke at an insurance conference in Dallas, Texas a number of months ago, and I put up these videos. These are AI-generated videos. And I indicated to them that we are on the precipice of an era of the emergence of fraudulent evidence in risk and fraud cases is going to be profound, because the maturity of AI-generated video is moving so fast, it is staggering. Here's an example where we take an input video of a car driving down the street and we ask it to go down a rainbow road. Now we want you to take it and put it through a lush jungle, and then we would like you to simply swap out and have it go through a medieval theme. And in a matter of seconds, it is generating this video. The ability to do lip sync. Watch this, which comes from one AI vendor.
Oh my God.
I'll be damned.
Is this real?
Pika now supports lip sync, and it is truly spectacular. Wait, hold up.
The blurring between reality and fiction is going to become increasingly difficult to determine. Yeah, I saw this one tweet one day, and I've got 2 minutes on the clock. I might run about 3 minutes over time. I'm very cognizant of the time. Society expressing concerns with all this misinformation, which is coming out of social networks and elsewhere, and the tech industry responds, cool, we've generated, this machine which generates misinformation at scale. We are only months or a year away from a completely manufactured reality. It's like this technological arms race. And think about this in the audit context. Think about this, what we are doing with integrity of information, what we are trying to deal with. Back in November 2022, when ChatGPT was first exploding on the scene, Zurich Insurance brought me over to their Global Risk Manager Summit conference in Lucerne, Switzerland. And I put up 2 slides for them. I said, number one, every new technology is ultimately used for a nefarious, terrible purpose, accelerating societal risk. And we're now at the point in which new technologies are coming at us at a speed which we have never witnessed before. We have to learn how to manage these, deal with these issues, deal with the challenges they present. And corporate clients are already dealing with this reality. Cigna was sued for an algorithm that was allegedly used to deny coverage to hundreds of thousands of patients. The reality is every organization on the planet is now faced with new extreme risk, including your counterparts down in Australia, where KPMG Australia was sued after AI-generated material that was faked was used to implicate them in non-existent scandals. We don't know where we're going, but we're making great time, and it's extremely scary where this is taking us, because this technology is both incredibly powerful and inherently flawed. And the biggest risks are those that we don't yet know about. To a degree, this organization with legal and audit and compliance is in the risk management business, and we are in a situation in which we can barely comprehend the risks which are coming at us. So what do we do with this stuff? Draw stickmen. Draw stickmen. You know, I think I discovered in my voyage as a Canadian chartered accountant that I could transition from being somebody who focused on audit and business advisory and tax and develop a career of advising organizations such as NASA, Disney, the PGA of America, Pfizer, on the global trends which will define their future. You have innate skills which we develop from our ability to walk into different situations each and every week. And I don't think we give enough credit to who we are and what we do as chartered accountants and as consultants and as legal experts. The future is full of opportunity. Some people see the future and see a threat. Innovators see the same future and see an opportunity. I think what you need to do with artificial intelligence is this. You need to think big. You need to start small. You need to scale fast. Thank you very much. I think we might have a couple of minutes for questions.
There's a particular question that I want to ask you that comes in from the audience, because I think it summarizes a lot of the views that are expressed. It comes both from the audience and from the trough of despondency, because it says, what are the factors that distinguish AI from other products created based on new technologies that were considered the next best thing, but have faced challenges preventing their mass adoption? Crypto assets, NFTs. A couple of years ago, we were all going to be in the metaverse. So what is different about AI?
Yeah, I actually have a really good track record on crypto, the metaverse, NFTs, all those things. I can actually go back in my blog and read posts from 2017, 2018, talking about the fact it's a bubble, it's not real, there's nothing really here, there's nothing really emerging. And I actually have video clips where I'm talking about that. AI is real because it's already proven to be real. I mean, the impact of machine vision in interpreting radiology for cancer diagnosis, where we can use an X-ray diagnosis of common eye disease issues with 98% accuracy improvement over a human doing that. The role of an AI machine vision on an assembly line to identify parts defects of products coming off. It's already proven. So the difference, the distinguishing factor is much of this is real and proven already. That's not to say there isn't hype. The hype around ChatGPT, the hype around Silicon Valley companies, the hype around a lot of the startups which are emerging. To me, it almost feels a little bit like it's 1999 again, 2000 again. Remember dot-com companies? As an accountant, I always wondered about that. Their business models seem to be we're going to sell stuff at a loss and make it up in a volume. And to an accountant like me, that didn't make sense. And I sort of get the sense we're getting the same type of bubble around some of that type of stuff. So yes, there's very real aspects, but there's the scammy hype aspects as well.
One final thing before I let you go. I saw somebody saying a while ago that when they thought about machine learning and AI, that they thought they would be in a situation where the mundanity would be taken by the AI and they would get to do the creativity. But now the AI is doing the art and they're still loading the dishwasher. So how do you know what's going to replace you and what's going to supplement you, or can you?
I viewed any technology never as something that is going to replace a skill or a capability or knowledge. I view this as a massive opportunity for creativity enhancement, knowledge enhancement. Look, I think I never had any artistic skills whatsoever. I think I failed art in kindergarten. I mean, I just couldn't draw. Maybe that's why I had stickmen as audit marks. audit tick marks. And I've been using Midjourney and other tools like that to create AI-generated art. You saw those clips where I'm the hippie and I'm the cyborg and doing magical things. And I think there's a magical creative opportunity that we're just beginning to discover. Look, we're probably a year or less away from a situation in which half of a Hollywood blockbuster will be generated via AI-based text-to-video tools. So there is a creativity explosion that is unfolding here.
Much appreciated. Fascinating. Thank you very much. Jim
Thank you
Carroll,
very much.
folks.
Thank you for having me back to Ireland.
Jim, thank you very much, sir.